freedom. Of course, you've heard from our leader, Onyendumazen Nnamdi Kanu, who is placed in a solitary confinement for telling us the gospel truth and reminding us the history. And this evening, this morning or this afternoon, depending on your time zone, I might not be able to speak very loud because I don't have a voice. I haven't been online because I haven't been feeling good. But I am actually trying to force it today because I've been trying to do this government in exile for a while now. So I just want to bring it up and get it done with, so that the people will understand our stance in this issue of government in exile. After this evening, you will understand exactly what is our take on the government in exile and what it signifies, if there is any, any positivities around it. You will understand after I actually give you this information through the introductory document of government in exile rather. So this evening we are going to be talking about, of course you saw the post in front of your screen here, bring it back, the foreign policy, their response to the Nigeria election. Just like you see the first poster in front of you, Nigeria election, US congratulates victor while experts doubt results. That is from foreign policy. They also say, okay, the other one, the ones on the ground, is this people calling for the debate between Chimamanda and Wole Soyinka. It is, I have only very simple word to tell those people. You cannot compare, you cannot compare those two. They are great people in their own sides, and then of course being a great person does not mean that at some point you will not derail and become a bad person. So Wole Soyinka have chosen his path. I don't think it is necessary to start comparing the scores of these two people. The other one is young, her future is still right in front of her. The other one is old, her future is gone. But the only problem I have with him is that he wants to ruin the future that he's not going to be part of. That is the only problem I have with him. So those who are calling for the debate, it doesn't make sense because you cannot win. It is not going to benefit you anything. Comparing people's achievements and all that, it's not going to achieve us anything. But I want to emphasize on these foreign policies and their declaration. Let me get more people into this program, because I will only be here for like 1 hour. I will not take much of your time, because if I stay longer I might have the light might affect me, so I don't want to stay long in front of the light and the blue screen. So great and wonderful people of Biafra, welcome to this program. Share the video, invite others to join. First of all, let us go to this. Who is a recognized government in exile? Let me bring the introductory documents that talks about government in exile. Let me bring it so that we will read it in order to find out who exactly is supposed to be recognized as a government in exile. Those of you who are joining us, you are welcome. We're just starting this program on Facebook, so welcome. Of course, right in front of your screen is an article. It is a PDF that was written and introduced by Talmon. In this document, you will understand who is. His name is Stephen Talmon. You will understand who is the government in exile, what do they stand for, and what is their job, and who is actually a legal government in exile. So I am going to read from this document that is right in front of you. And I will proceed with the reading. Who is legitimate government in exile? Towards normative criteria for governmental legitimacy in the international law. Stephen Talmon. The reason why I am reading this is there is, what is flying all over the place. People are calling themselves, they are prime minister, they are government in exile. They have formed it, they have done that under the leadership of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, which doesn't make any sense. Under the leadership of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, you form a government in exile, you name yourself prime minister. So let us read this article. At the end of this article, we'll understand who is the legitimate government in exile. So, the introduction, it says, in the recent years, such diverse authority in exile as Coalition Government of Democratic of Kampuchea, CGDK, 1979 to 1990, the Dalvele Government of Panama, 1989 to 1988 to 89, the Sabah Government of Kuwait. Okay, let me not go through all these introductions. Let me start from here. I want to pick up the ones that we are going to understand more. President Kaba, the democratically elected leader of Sierra Leone, was deposed in a military coup. In 1997, Britain continued to recognize President Kaba as the legitimate head of government of Sierra Leone. Earlier this year, President Kaba was restored to power. That was a positive outcome and represented the restoration of the legitimate and democratic government in place of a military regime. So, several other authorities in exile, such as the Dalai Lama's government of Tibet in exile. So what it is telling us here, it is about how are you going to, who are those recognized as government in exile? In the event of military coup, which he gave an example of this president of Sierra Leone, when there was a military coup, president of Sierra Leone has to go to exile to seek for a refuge in order to make sure that he stay alive while presiding from exile over the matters at hand in his country, who actually democratically, through a democratic process, elected him into power. That's one of the example. So when we finish, bring up this example, you will know which category your prime minister fall under, so that we will, whenever we are presenting our matter, we will be presenting it as people who are intelligent and people who knows what we are doing, because the plan of the enemy is all about trying to make us look stupid in front of those whom we are presenting our cases to. It is actually the faction that they always create in order to use them to destroy anything that you do, especially in Africa. They will create a faction that will oppose and try to demolish and destroy everything that you are putting in place in order to win. So let us continue. Now, several other authorities in exile, such as Dalai Lama's government of Tibet and in exile, and the hosted Hutu government of Rwanda, 1994, or the deposed Emir of Qatar, 1995, on the other hand, have not been recognized as legitimate government, although reference to legitimacy in the case of government in exile is not without precedent. Already, During the Second World War, the exiled Allied government in London were sometimes referred to as the legitimate government or legitimate representatives of their countries. Under Axis domination, the attribute legitimate has been added to the government with any frequency only in recent times. What is not clear is who is legitimate government in exile in international law and what distinguishes a simple government either in exile or in situ, which is situ, situ, which is where it began, if our situ is in Biafra land. From a legitimate government, these questions are of fundamental importance as only legitimate. Now, this is actually showing you that anybody can just wake up and call themselves, we are government in exile. So when they woke up from their bed and decided that they have the food they ate last night is still in their stomach, they woke up and they call themselves, we are government in exile. They start sharing posts amongst themselves, amongst even people who are, illegal in their place of domicile, amongst those who does not even know or have any idea of being a leader or government. Anybody can wake up and call themselves government in exile. And that is the reason why they have to write a letter to United Nations to actually make, act like they are writing a letter for you. But on the other hand, they are writing a letter trying their luck to see if the United Nations will recognize those people in the name that they have formed government in exile in a country that does not exist yet. A country that does not exist, that is not yet in existence. That is number one. Let us continue to read, because we are going to actually, learn a lot here. Government in exile are regarded as competent to bind their state, dispose of its asset abroad, protect its nationals, represent their state in judicial proceedings and the international fora, and most importantly, consent to arm pro-democratic or humanitarian intervention in their state. How many humanitarian intervention are these people who claim they are government in exile has ever done in the state of Biafra that is not yet, declared? Now, how many humanitarian jobs have they, taken part in doing? Rather, they collect money from these people who they're supposed to look after. They collect their money, use it to enrich themselves, give themselves posts of various caliber, and they will be answering, telling you they are doing this, they are doing that for you. Let's continue to read, because I want it to come from the legal point of view, not from Judge Money's point of view. So, it has been said that it is almost impossible to set out a clear-cut criteria for government in exile, as the relevant decision concerning the attribution of competence lie exclusively with the government of the recognizing state. However, if the notion of legitimate government is to be more than a relative concept, in that each state, by its own unfettered discretion, can decide who and who is not the legitimate government of another state, then there must be certain minimum criteria which an authority in exile must fulfill to qualify as a legitimate government in international law. Practice shows that states do not feel free to recognize any authority in exile they like as the legitimate government of another state. In this connection, it is important to distinguish between a different meaning of recognition Recognition may indicate the recognizing state's willingness to enter into a certain relationship, and insofar it is within its discretion, and or express its opinion on the legal status of the authority recognized, and insofar it is regulated by international law. Recognition is used as a rule in the letter, meaning if the authority in the question is not just accorded recognition, but it is recognized as something, for example, as a legitimate government, which is, it must be a legitimate government from your situ, which is where you come from, where you are running away from, where you come to exile from. So now, recognition is used as a rule in the latter meaning if the authority in question is not just accorded recognition, but is recognized as something, for example, as a legitimate government or as the sole legitimate representatives of a people. Since the beginning of this century, some 75 authority in exile have called themselves or claim to be the government of certain state. Of these, more than half have been recognized as a legitimate government. Remember, it says that, let me read it again. Let me read this part again so that pay very good attention. Recognition is used as a rule in the latter meaning if the authority in the question is not just accorded recognition, but is recognized as something, for example, as a legitimate government a legitimate government which is recognized from your situ as the sole legitimate representative of people. Since the beginning of the century, some 75 authority in exile have called themselves or claim. They said 75. I want you to mark that part. Let me highlight it. Let me find it again and highlight it here. Since the beginning of the century, 75. Here it is. Some 75 authorities in exile have called themselves or recognized as legitimate government by examining what authority in exile states have recognized as government, and by asking for this reason for their recognition or non-recognition decision, it is hoped to establish in a first step. It is hoped to establish in a first step, which now, in a first step, the minimum criteria for recognition of an authority is a government, which is, so the criteria for the status of government laid down by international law. In a second step, it will then be asked what makes a government legitimate in the eyes of international law. Let's find out. Criteria for government status. Criteria for government status. Number one, state. Number one, state. State. S-T-A-T-E. State, which is must be a recognized state. Now let's continue to read. According to the predominant view in the legal literature, government in exile is not a subject of international law, but the representative organ of the international legal person state, and as such, the depository of this sovereignty, the depository of its sovereignty. I hope you are paying attention. So there must be sovereignty. There must be sovereignty. You know, because this depository of its sovereignty is like a power, the power from its sovereignty. So there must be a sovereignty before there will be existence. The government in exile will come to the party. So that's what it says here. Number one, it says state. Which state is like when there is a state, it means that you have a sovereignty. According to the predominant view in the legal literature, government in exile is not a subject of international law, but the representative organ of the international legal person, state, and as such, the depository of its sovereignty. Depository of its sovereignty, power of its sovereignty. There can thus logically be no government, either in exile or in situ. There can thus logically be no government, either in exile or the origin, which is situ, without the legal existence of the state. Which, are you paying attention? Without the legal existence of the state, there can be no government. There can thus logically be no government. Let me highlight it because it is in front of your screen so that you will also read with me. Those of you who are getting carried away, government in exile, we have written to United Nations and we are waiting for the answer. Just because they heard Chimamanda wrote to US president, they've started writing, but let's continue. Let me read again. According to the predominant view in the legal literature, government in exile is not a subject of international law, but the representative organ of the international legal person's state, and as such, the depository of its sovereignty, power. There can thus logically be no government, either in exile or in situ, which is the place of origin, without the legal existence of the state, which they, on the legal status of the authority in exile, recognize as a legitimate government. Okay, so if the state doesn't exist, there will be no government. The state has to be in existence before there will be government. On the legal status of authority in exile, recognized as a legitimate government, C.S. Talmon, Recognition of Government in International Law, Oxford, 1998. And M. Rota, Government in Exile in the Bamhat, Encyclopedia of the Public International Law, 2, Amsterdam, 1995. Okay, let me move away from this one because it is not something that is for your understanding. Government represents a brief for the British Secretary of State of early March 1943 on the British attitude of Albania noted. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. They don't regard Albanian state as now existing because they want to Okay, let me read it again. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that, I think I jumped it. Sorry for that. A brief for the, let me highlight it so that you will also confirm the reading or you read it with me. It is not that huge. Let me try to see if I can zoom it a bit. Okay, I can. If I can zoom it while reading it, it will be easier. I don't know if you can see the zoom. Yeah, I think it's better. Okay, government represents a brief for the British Secretary of State, early March 1943, on the British attitude of Albania noted. We, however, We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. They wish to establish Albanian state, which they have not yet established it. So they don't consider it as being in existence, which is exactly what these people, agent provocateur, is doing. They have not yet established a Biafran state, because before you declare such thing, you need to declare the state of Biafra before you now form a government that will preside over the state. Without you declaration of the state of Biafra, there is no government. How can there be government for a state that doesn't exist? That's exactly the example they give here. Government represents a brief for the British Secretary of State of early March 1943 on the British attitude of an Albanian noted, we, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. They are trying to re-establish it. So the one that they do not see it to be in existence before or pre the re-establishment. We had Biafra in 1967. After the war, which took the life of almost 5 million women and children on a war crime. Now, they now say that there is no victor, no vanquish. And the Effiong say Biafra ceased to exist. So what we are fighting for today is for us to re-establish that state. Pre the re-establishment of the state of Biafra, Biafra does not exist until we re-establish it, until we declare it, until we pull our flag up and we declare the Biafra state. And then if there is any reaction from anywhere, we will stand to defend the declaration of Biafra. Thus is the only time we are going to have government in situ or in exile. So let's continue to interpret it so that today we are going to bring it down to the layman's understanding. So that pre the establishment, it does not exist. So you must establish it first before it will come to existence. Now let's continue. State in the present context means a sovereign and independent state, as the Permanent Court of International Justice said in the Lighthouse, in the Crete and Samos case. An autonomous entity is not a state. An autonomous entity is not a state. Government in exile for autonomous region, such as Basque and the Catalan. Autonomous government in exile 1939 to 79 thus do not qualify as government in exile. Do not qualify as government in exile. This is autonomous that is already in existence. Autonomous that is already in existence was not recognized as a government in exile. Talk more of somebody who just woke up from his 2x2 room and tell you that he is prime minister. He choose his fellow Janjaweed and give them a post to say we are now government in exile. And he said to Biafra, oh hey Biafra, some of those who reason from their backside, who does not understand, and they are hailing him as a prime minister of government in exile. This is exactly the reason why I am bringing it to you, so that you will understand exactly what you are doing to yourself. Because when we tell you that whenever we present whatever, we know that we are taking things one at a time, and we are going through a professional means to achieve our goals, and we are going to explore every diplomatic means in order to achieve what we are looking for. we are not going to undermine anything this time around. Like I always say, that we are going to form alliance with our, we are going to start from the continent of Africa, because the mistake we always make is that we always go and look for help from the people whom our predicament put food on their table. So we are not going to make such mistakes this time. We are going to present our case in the 52 African countries. We are going to present our case there. So that is exactly what we are going to do. So we want to educate our people so that in everything they are doing, they will know where they stand. They will know their stance. They will know their, what is obtainable, what is, what they can explore in the quest to achieve our freedom. Let us continue. We, however, interpret our declaration to mean that while we shall endeavor to re-establish an independent Albanian state after the war, we do not regard an Albanian state as now existing. It doesn't exist yet while they are planning to re-establish it. So it is only when they re-establish it, it will be in existence. Thus, no question of recognizing any Albanian government in exile arises at the present. So that is it. No question of recognizing any Biafra government in exile arises, because the people that we are sending our messages to, they will be looking at us believing that we are fools. They will be looking at us believing that what we are just making fool of ourselves. And that's exactly the reason why I brought this legal document, in order to kick back all this insult these people are bringing to us, because these are the same people who did everything and placed our names in the list of terrorist index, even though we tried to distance ourselves from them because of how corrupt those IEs, the IEP, those people who manage such index, how corrupt they were. They decided to place our name. But I believe that we, the litigants are on their case right now. So we continue. In the present context means sovereign and independent state. As the Permanent Court of International Justice said, the Lighthouse in Crete and the Samos case, an autonomous entity is not a state. Government in exile for autonomous region such as Basque and the Catalan. Autonomous government in exile 1939 to 79 thus do not qualify as government in exile in the sense of international law. The Court of Appeal of Poitiers stated with respect to the Basque government while it enjoys a certain autonomy inside Spanish state, it is not sovereign and it is not recognized from the point of view of international law. The government in exile of Spanish autonomous region did not receive any recognition as government and must be regarded as autonomous division of the government in exile of the Spanish Republic. The criterion of legal existence of a sovereign independent state also militates today. Militate means prevent today against recognition of the government of Tibet in exile. Speaking on the 18th August 1958, the Indian Prime Minister submitted that Tibet was always looked upon and considered by the world community as being under the suzerainty of China. At no time did any country consider it independent. They considered it as autonomous under the suzerainty of China. Thus, even if Tibet was in law autonomous, what in fact, of course, it is not recognition of their Dalai Lama's government in exile as a government will not be possible. So, I hope you are listening. I hope you are listening. I believe that while I am reading, you will also be reading yourself so that you will know that I am reading what is written in this document. So I am going to jump this part because this part is not, it is a lot of numbers there, which is not something that you're going to understand. So under the Synod Agreement of Measure for the Peaceful Liberation of Tibet, the Tibet has right to national regional autonomy under the unified leadership of Central People's Government for the text of treaty. Okay, this is about, let me go to more general knowledge of it. Okay, let me see what it says. Without implying a change in the legal status of Tibet, recognition as government of Tibet would necessarily imply recognition of Tibet as a sovereign independent state and would justly be resented by the people of Republic of China. It is inter alia for this legal reason that no state recognizes the government of Tibet in exile as such. For example, the German foreign minister declared on 20th of June 1996 in the federal parliament that the federal government, as all government in the world, regard Tibet as part of the Chinese state. From this clear statement of international law, it follows that the federal government will not recognize the self-styled government of Tibet in exile. This is not formality, but a question of international law. Have you seen now where at least Tibet, they have declared their own thing, their autonomy. Now, this guy who is bringing to you, he's calling himself prime minister, addressing you as your prime minister, choose some janjaweed erat and put behind around a newspaper, around whatever they put it, and present to you, these are your government in exile. Those who, some of them does not even know how to write their name properly. They are your government in exile. Azuka that to dance naked in the public is also part of your government in exile. Soon they will have your faces of money. The reason why we are doing this, I want you to understand the exact people who come to your comment section to basically insult you. I want you to understand the type of people who come to your comment section to insult you. Let me bring it so that we will be looking at each other while we are actually talking about this. Because when you look at your comment section, you will see people who are coming to insult you. I want you to know that many of them are some of the packages that was, nominated and picked up by Loretta Onochie and co. Because, of course, you will understand that these people, they are making sure that they sponsor this guy to make us look like fools in the eyes of those we are calling upon to assist us in our struggle for freedom. That is what they are doing right now. I can categorically assure you that this is what they are doing. So that when the real people come up to do the real thing, to make a diplomatic move, it will be like a fool. Just like they have started, writing letters. Like, the letter he claimed he wrote to the United Nations, did you see what it was written there? Calling on United Nations to recognize him as a government in exile. How can United Nations recognize you as a government in exile when you don't have existing state? You don't have existing state. Have you now seen how fool he is making himself? And believing as na wanzana law kosu na na aramman. You are making a fool out of yourself. You are not recognized from Situ, which is the place where you come from, that you claim you are their government. You are not recognized. You are not recognized in exile. So, you don't have a sovereignty yet. Because we are now fighting to, to actually regain our sovereignty. and somebody is telling you they are already a government pre, declaration of your sovereign state. They have already become a government. Oh God. This is the thing they are doing so that it will look like Igbo. Because everybody wants to be a leader. That's exactly what they are trying to do. I want to inform the international communities that are actually under the influence of my voice, because like I said in my Twitter, we have a lot to offer the world. And we have a lot to gain from the world. And that is the reason why we are not going to leave any stone unturned. We are going to lobby with all of them. We're not going to leave anyone behind this time around, starting from the continent of Africa. So, we do not have any such thing as government in exile as yet. If need be, we are going to establish it. We are only calling for our people to be protected in the place where they are domiciled, while advocating for the freedom of Biafra nation. That's what we are doing right now. We do not have any government in exile. Anybody, it is a faction. Just like you people are aware of, that to destroy an organization, you have to create a faction from those who are familiar with the organization in order to counter the narrative of that such organization, in order to destroy them if they are not firm enough to defend what they stand for. So that's exactly what we are going through now. And that is the reason why we are bringing it to the world to know that we are battling with such faction created by those who does not want our emancipation and who does not want us to gain our sovereignty. But that is not a problem, because we know what we are doing and we know what we are going after. It is Biafra, and we are not going back. Even if it is going to be that we are going to die restoring Biafra, that is exactly what we are going to be doing, because we have suffered under Nigeria and we are not going back there. In the last 63 years, we've been marginalized, we've been extrajudiciously killed. Now, as if it wasn't enough, 1967, the war crime all over the place. More than 3.5 million women and children killed. Who is held to account? Nobody. The warmonger Gowon is still alive. He's still traveling abroad for medical checkup. That's when you say that the double face of this ICC of Roman status, it is not going to actually benefit us African anything, because they are doing selective, prosecution. They select whom to prosecute. So that's why we are making our stance for the world to hear us, because we never had media to report how our people were being killed in 1967. That's exactly the reason why we started with media this time around. We started it from the media, because they concealed the atrocities that they have committed against our people. The bloodiest war in Africa, it was concealed. Nobody heard about it in Africa, except those head of states who knew about it. But they didn't know the gravity of the war, because the war crime was actually hidden away from you guys. That's why we are bringing it back. We're not going back. So, let me read the last one, because I cannot finish it. It's a lot of things that is talking about, that is here. without implying a change in the legal status of Tibet's recognition as government of Tibet would necessarily imply recognition of Tibet as a sovereign independent state and would justly be resented by the people of Republic of China. It is inter alia for this legal reason that no state recognizes the government of Tibet in exile as such. For example, the German foreign minister declared on 20 June 1996 in the federal parliament that the federal government, as all governments in the world, regard Tibet as part of Chinese state. From the clear statement of international law, it follows that the federal government will not recognize self-styled government of the Tibet in exile. Self-styled, just like it is happening now. Remember, these people, they already had their autonomy, but this one is just somebody who woke up from their sleep and style themselves and start calling themselves government in exile. For you to know, these are people who are position mongers. That's why they place themselves they use collage, place themselves, give themselves positions, and then they present it to you. And some of you, although there is no Biafrans that are for, because this is the reason why other ethnic group will look at us and say we are, and see that we are not, yet, ready. Because when they set up a stunt like this, people are defending it. Oh, I know that many people who are defending it are Hausa Fulani, who are using Igbo names. That's exactly the people you see in your comment section, defending this rubbish, their government in exile, because they were recruited to do so. Self-styled government, self-styled, when nobody recognize or know them in Biafra land, but they are in Finland and other places answering your government. Are you now seeing the way they want to destroy what we are doing? But they cannot, because we are more steps ahead of them and their plan. When I tell you that this is part of the Western agenda, you might think I am just speaking grammar. It is not a grammar, it is a very simple English. Western agenda. Have you now seen? They have advised him, go through this route of government in exile, because they haven't done it, so that they will not continue to prosecute you using their name. Go through it. In doing so, you will be sabotaging every international and diplomatic move that they are making, because you are declaring government in exile in the name that you are fighting for the same thing they are fighting. But we know all that. We know the politics, because what they want to bring into IPOB is political game. Politics. But so many of us who has been exposed in politics, we know when we see politics, the type of politics they are playing right now. It is the type of politics that it is like, when a diesel spill, it doesn't catch fire immediately. It takes time. When it catches fire, it takes long to be quenched. That's exactly what they are doing. They are like diesel. What they are doing, they are bringing it out. But we don't know where it affects us, because they are making the move that we are. They are replicating every move. That is exactly the reason why I applaud the DOS. Because every move they are making is not in the public domain. That's why these people, that's why I always say that we are ahead of them. We are more steps ahead of them and their, Western agenda. We are ahead of them. Anything they present, we will nullify it on arrival. Now they have presented their self-styled government in exile. giving those who does not know their names, giving in the Bagodula Ashawo in America, Bagida Ashawika Ashawa Kuchionwoke, giving them small time. They tell you that these 10 people will be in your note. People who went to America and they after standing on the street, they are tired now. I know that you people don't know the reason why they call them America. These are the people that their face will be in your currency, according to the self-styled idiot in Finland. Now, let us continue. Colonial possession and self-governing territories are also not sovereign and independent states. The government in exile of Burma in Simla, India, the Philippines, the Washington and the Netherlands East Indies, in Brisbane, Australia during the Second World War, as well as the exile government for the Portuguese state of India, which was established in Lisbon on 17 February 1962 after the India invasion of Goa, Damor and Dio. We are not government in exile in the sense of international law, and we are not recognized as such. These governments were rather maintained or established as a symbol showing that the colonial or administering power regarded the loss of its territory only as temporarily. In no way were they to imply a change of status of the territories. Have you seen? For example, these people, remember that in this paragraph, they conquered some territory, but yet they cannot call themselves government in it. They have conquered some territory. They have something they are in control of. But this guy that, is in Finland has never declared anything. He never conquered anything. He didn't even conquer his village and call himself a government there in order to have maybe autonomy of his village. And before he declared government in exile, have you now seen that it is making a fool out of you? I'm not going to read it further, because if I continue to read, there are many things. Upon your request, I will actually make it available to you. Then you will read it to understand what a government in exile is. Because that's why I made a short video saying that where is the declaration of Biafra before having a government? Because we need to wake up and say, from today henceforth, we are in control of our territory. We will have our military in check, or our armed resistance in check. We declare our territory, and we say that we don't want anything Nigeria to be, interfering in this territory. We will resist every of their interference. That's when we will select government, and from there, those government will go to exile in order to be protected. That's when, if they want, because the government must start from Situ to the exile. That's why I said in that short video, which I posted in IPOB Mazi and DOS, which it must start from Situ. There must be a government then before it goes to exile. You cannot just wake up from where you are, you decided to call yourself, I am a prime minister, when nobody know you. Who are you prime ministering over? Because you are in the North country, they do prime ministering. You don't even know the type of government setup or we are going to have. But you have already given yourself a prime minister, self-conceited. Those are the people you saw that are claiming they are government in exile. They are self-conceited. They don't care about you. It is all about them. It is anything revolves about them. Once they are being controlled by their Western agenda, they will be carrying out everything that is being plotted and given them. Play this script. This is the time you need to leave this part. Go to the other side. Plan B need to be activated. They keep on doing what they knew nothing about. And some idiots will be in the comment section and they will be promoting them. Errats. Of course, some of them are not human beings. Some of them are animals, because Nigeria is a zoo. For the sake of clarity, a place where people cannot be protected, rather be killed. It is a zoo. A place where people cannot speak their mind and be alive. It is a zoo. A place where there is no law. You will arrest people, or you will take people from a particular location, and you take them away from their jurisdiction. You will not report them to their police station. You take them to another place. You can transport them like 500 kilometers from where you pick them up without reporting them to their jurisdiction. It means that it is not a country. It is a zoo. Banana Republic, if I may put it in a way you will understand it better. A country that go and violate international sovereignty rights. Territorial integrity of Kenya was violated by Nigeria by going to kidnap Mazen Nnamdi Kanu and extraordinary rendition him from Kenya to Nigeria. Have you seen the type of zoo Nigeria is? Because they see Nigeria as the biggest economy in Africa. People are scared of them, including Kenya. Including Kenya. Where is your territorial integrity, Kenya people? Where is their territorial integrity? Of course, they don't know what is territorial integrity. That's why a country will wake up, fly to their country, kidnap somebody, fly them. The only thing the Kenya people could say is that technically, this man